Hello, my lovely little flying creatures. Welcome back to Revelations of the Scarf. It's been so much fun writing this, and as of today, it's been written for a few months now. As we reach the end, you fans will be given a choice, so stick around. This chapter was written by me, and the art was done by Lazy, and for the voice actors, I'll be playing the narrator, Plagg, and Nino.
I'm Lazy, and I'll be playing Marinette.
And you're right here, and I'll be playing Adrien and Nathalie.
We are so close to 1,000 Spotify followers, so could you do us a favor and follow our podcast on Spotify and rate it as well? It's greatly appreciated. Now, Chapter 5, Green Lettering. Adrien was in a muddle of confusion. Not only did he just learn that one of his closest friends gave him the most thoughtful gift he's ever received, but he received a gift from Ladybug with just as much thought. He loved Ladybug. He knew that, but Marinette, she was the nicest person he's ever met.
Adrien, give me the mittens,
Plagg said, the second that Adrien de-transformed. Adrien held the gloves out to Plagg, and the black Kwame flew up and grabbed one of them. He threw it across the room and onto Adrien's bed. Adrien heard a small zip, and Plagg flew into the mittens in a millisecond.
These are the softest thing I have ever felt,
Plagg said and snuggled deeper in. Adrien laughed at the Kwame.
I know, it's really soft.
Adrien then held up a piece of cheese, and Plagg's eyes snapped open at the smell. Plagg poked his little hand out and moved it in a come here motion. Adrien shook his head.
Nope, you're not making my mittens smell like cheese,
Adrien said. Plagg groaned and flew out of the mittens to the cheese. He gobbled it up in one bite and then quickly flew back towards the mittens, snuggling really close. Within a few seconds, Adrien started to hear a small snoring, indicating that the small Kwame fell asleep. Adrien shook his head, chuckling to himself and walking towards his bathroom so he could start getting ready for bed. A solid 25 minutes later, he emerged from his bathroom with wet hair and PJs on. He gently moved Plagg off his bed and into his designated sleeping area, out of sight of anyone who walks in, then got into bed himself.
Tomorrow, I'm gonna talk to Marinette. I want to see if anything can happen between us.
The next day, Adrien woke up with the sun shining bright in his face. He rubbed the tired from his eyes and hopped out of bed, starting his morning routine. He let Plagg sleep while he got dressed, not wanting to hear his cheese talk for as long as he could, but eventually, Plagg just woke up naturally.
Adrien!
Plagg whined. Adrien poked his head out of the bathroom, his toothbrush hanging out of his mouth.
What?
Plagg laid on his back.
I need cheese!
He whined more. Adrien rolled his eyes and walked out of the bathroom, still brushing his teeth. He opened a drawer and pulled out the horrible cheese and handed it to the Kwame. Plagg threw the cheese into his mouth.
Wrong,
he said with his mouth full. Adrien rolled his eyes and walked into the bathroom, spitting out the toothpaste and walking back out to then get dressed.
Can you bring me the mittens? I want to sit in them,
Plagg said. Adrien looked down at the gloves sitting in the drawer where Plagg usually slept.
Okay, fine, but I can't let them fall out or anything. I don't want anyone to see them,
he said while stuffing them into his bag. A few minutes later, an alarm went off on Adrien's phone, screaming at him to leave the house. He grabbed his bag and put it over his shoulder, then opened it up once again to allow Plagg to fly in. He walked downstairs.
Hello, Adrien,
he heard his father's assistant say.
Good morning, Nathalie.
He replied back.
I just want to remind you, you have fencing after school, and to practice your piano. Your dad would like to see your progress tomorrow at 5:30.
Nathalie said in her normal monotone voice. Adrien nodded.
Where's my father? I wanted to talk to him about something,
Adrien said. Nathalie looked back towards Gabriel's office.
Your father is currently occupied. He will see you tomorrow at 5:30.
Nathalie said before gesturing her hands towards the door, silently telling Adrien to leave. Adrien quickly walked out of the house and into the car, wanting to get to school as quickly as possible. Once he was in the car, Placide looked at him through the rearview mirror, checking to see if he put his seatbelt on. Once he was sure that Adrien was securely in the car, he pulled out of the courtyard. The ride to school was silent, obviously, but it wasn't inside Adrien's head. His head was buzzing with thoughts of what he was going to say to Marinette. The car came to a halt, and then he heard the car shift into park, so he quickly got out and ran up the steps towards the school. "Sup, my dude?" Nino said once Adrien wasn't bound.
Hey, Nino,
Adrien said. After he took his attention away from his best friend, he noticed blue hair.
Oh, hey Mari, you're here early,
Adrien said. Marinette looked up at him, her cheeks slightly tinged pink.
Hey, Adrien. Yeah, I wanted to get here early,
she said, stuttering over her words. Marinette then looked to Alia, but she just shrugged and raised her water bottle to her face. He was confused as to why she was stumbling over her words, but he didn't show it on his face.
Nice, you look beautiful today, by the way,
he said nonchalantly. If Adrien was tinged pink earlier, she was now bright red. He heard the slight choke of Alia choking on her water. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that both Nino and Alia's eyes were wide in shock. Marinette couldn't even respond. Stutters and gibberish were the only things coming out of her mouth. She then gestured into the school and started walking backwards, but then she stumbled over her footing. She started to lose balance, but Adrien pounced into action, grabbing her hand and sticking his other arm around her waist to catch her.
You okay?
He asked. Marinette pushed him off of her and took at least 4 steps back to distance herself from him.
I'm fine.
She said before turning around and rushing to class. Adrien looked at her in confusion. Did he read her wrong? Why did she push him away? Did she not like him? Ollie started after her best friend, her face covered in both concern and shock. Dude, what was that? Nino asked. Adrien finally took his gaze away from Marinette.
What?
What? Nino said mockingly. What the hell was that with Marinette? You look beautiful. And then catching her, not just like catching her, but like, dude, you look literally Prince Charming that. Nino said. Adrien smirked slightly, but then shrugged and walked off. No, dude, you can't just do that and not tell me what's going on, Nino said, jogging to catch up to him. What is happening? Do you have something for Marinette? Nino asked. Adrien kept walking.
No, I don't like her.
Adrien said, more trying to convince himself than he was Nino. Uh-huh, okay, dude, he said, and then didn't question the notion any further. Adrien was glad that he didn't pry, not wanting to actually confront his feelings. They reached the classroom and saw Alia and Marinette in their seats, whispering to one another. Alia saw Adrien out of her peripheral and then motioned her head towards the door. They both simultaneously stopped talking about whatever it was they were talking about. Adrien went and sat down in his seat, then turned around to look at Marinette, but she kept her gaze to quite literally anything but him. Adrien tried talking to her throughout the day, but he only ever got stuttering in return, and or running away from him. At the end of the day, Adrien planned on talking to her, wanting to see if there was a reason for her stuttering and running away from him. The bell rang, and Adrien started to pack up his stuff so that he could leave. And by the time he was done, he saw Marinette approaching the stairs outside of the room.
Jesus, she's fast.
He thought. He quickly ran out of the classroom, lightly bumping into people on the way. He muttered small apologies but kept running. He was even skipping steps when he was running down the stairs. He looked around for Marinette and saw her leaving the school.
My God, how fast can she run?
He asked himself. By the time he was outside, she was crossing the street and walking into her home. Adrien was about to run after her until he heard a grunt. He turned and saw Plagg standing with his fencing gear. Adrien sighed.
Damn it, I forgot I had fencing.
He thought. He walked towards the car in a disappointment. He traded his school stuff for his fencing stuff and started to walk back towards the school.
You can go to our house after, or I can call her tonight. Yeah, but I'll do something.
As usual, there was nothing exciting about fencing. He beat out all of his opponents, except Kagami. She kicked his ass, as per usual. He was changing out of his gear and into his regular clothes. He started to walk out of the school. He didn't realize how chilly it got after the sunset. He slightly shivered, but then remembered that he had mittens that Ladybug gave him.
Sorry, Plagg,
He said, while reaching into his bag. He felt the mittens in his hands, and he felt a slight weight in one of them. So he turned it over and shook him out of it. He then pulled them out of the bag and placed them on his hands. He heard a muffled Plagg. They were soft. Really soft. Almost like his scarf. He rubbed his hands together and started walking towards the car. He then smelled the amazing smell of pastries. That was when he remembered. He turned towards Plagg.
can I go to my friend's house really quick? I have to talk to her.
Adrien said. Plagg shook his head and clicked a button to open the backseat door.
Please, it won't be long.
Adrien pleaded. Plagg again shook his head and then gestured his head to the back seat. Adrien sighed, deciding he'll just call her later. He got into the car and hoped the ride home would be fast. It was, and the second that he was in the courtyard, he was trying to open the door. He walked up to his room as fast as possible.
Don't forget your piano, Adrien.
She heard Nathalie say to him as he passed. Once the door to his room shut, Plagg flew out of the bag.
Okay, what was that?
Plagg screamed in Adrien's face. Adrien covered his ears.
Jesus, Plagg, what did I do?
You dumped me out of the mittens? I was taking a nap, and you dumped me out of my sleeping spot.
Plagg said while crossing his tiny arms in anger. Adrien slightly smirked and looked away while shaking his head.
Jesus. Ladybug gave me the mittens, Plagg.
Adrien said.
No. She said that she made them so that I could snuggle in them.
Plagg said.
When I'm not using them, you can use them, Plagg. It was cold, so I just wanted to keep my hands warm.
He said while trying to pull them off. Plagg glared at Adrien.
Just Don't disrupt my sleep.
Plagg said, then flew over to his cheese drawer. Adrien shook his head and continued taking off his mittens. He set them down on his desk and walked towards his piano. He started to practice, knowing that the last time he didn't practice, his dad took away his privilege to leave the house. He played for a while, not stopping so that he would have it perfect for tomorrow. After he finished, he walked towards his bathroom to start his night routine.
Adrien!
Plagg screamed. Adrien groaned.
What?
Can you flip the glove the correct way? You turn them inside out when taking them off.
Plagg said while attempting to do it himself, but just getting stuck. Adrien walked towards Plagg and took the glove from him. He reached inside so that he could flip it the correct way, but then he saw something. It was the same green as the little cat paw on the outside, but it was small and sewn very close to the seam. He looked closely. Maybe she just messed up and only had green fabric left.
Hurry up, Adrien, I want to go to sleep.
Plagg said.
1 minute, Plagg.
He said, then flipped the mitten so that it was fully inside out again. He gasped, shock withering through his body.
No. There's no way.
He ran towards his laundry basket and picked out an article of clothing. He looked at the signature sign into the blue fabric. He brought it back towards the mittens and looked at them both together. Yep, there's no denying it. He knew that signature. He knew the feel of the fabric, he knew the design. And he knew who made them now.
Oh my god, something interesting just happened. I'm sure y'all are sitting at the edge of your seat after this one, but there's so much more to come. This chapter was a little late, but it still got out on the day I was supposed to. Also, Flynn's audio kind of had a bit of noise, so I tried to get rid of that as much as possible, but it only did a little bit. Also, I have a question for you all. Would you like to see a comeback of bloopers? If so, answer the poll on this chapter, or leave a comment on either Spotify or YouTube. We're going to be trying to get the rest of the series out as fast as possible so we have time to work on our other series. So turn on notifications and stick around!